In September of 2007, the Rockies were playing the Padres in San Diego. During the bottom of the fifth inning, Milton Bradley of the Padres was called out on strikes by home plate umpire Brian Runge. The first base umpire Mike Winters then told Runge afterwards that Bradley had tossed his bat in Runge's direction after the strikeout. In Bradley's next time up at bat in the eighth inning, Runge confronted Bradley about the bat toss and they briefly discussed it. Bradley ended up hitting a single in that at bat. After getting to first base, Bradley asked Winters about telling Runge about the tossed bat. Winters allegedly used profanity and provoked Bradley, who called time and then started arguing with Winters. In the argument, Padres first base coach Bobby Meacham and Padres manager Bud Black tried to intervene. During the argument though, Bradley ended up tearing his ACL. It was all around a really bad situation. Afterwards, Bradley said that it was the most unprofessional and most ridiculous thing he had ever seen. The game was in late September, so towards the very end of the season. Mike Winters ended up getting suspended for the rest of the season as a result, and he also did not work in the postseason. The reason for the suspension was for Winters using profanity directed at a player. Umpire Bob Davidson was known for being a very confrontational umpire. He worked for many seasons as an MLB ump from 1982 to 2016. There were countless times where he would get into arguments with managers and players. He also had a bit of a reputation for ejecting people when they were walking away from him. On multiple occasions, he even ejected fans from a game, and in one game he ejected a player, a pitching coach, and a fan, all in separate instances. In 2012 though, in a game between the Phillies and the Astros, MLB seemed to have enough with him. In the eighth inning of that game, the Phillies were in the field, and there was a strikeout where the ball got past catcher Brian Schneider. Bob Davidson sort of got in the way of Schneider, and the batter Jason Castro was able to reach first base. Phillies manager Charlie Manuel and the rest of the dugout was letting Davidson have it, and Davidson yelled back at them that he wasn't trying to get in the way. Davidson then turned towards Manuel and then ejected him, which led to a very heated on-field argument. Afterwards, MLB suspended Davidson for repeat violations of situation handling. It was just a one-game suspension, which Davidson served and then continued umpiring. Another well-known umpire who had a very long career is Joe West. He umpired an MLB record 43 seasons and 5,460 games. Over this time period, he was suspended 3 times by Major League Baseball. The first was in 1983 for an incident with then Atlanta Braves manager Joe Torre. After the game, Torre followed West into the walkway outside the umpire's dressing room. Torre was obviously unhappy about how West had handled the game. In the post-game confrontation, West ended up shoving Torre, which resulted in a 3-game suspension and a $500 fine for West. The next was in September of 2014, when West ejected Phillies pitcher Jonathan Papelbon for a lewd gesture of adjusting his crotch. Papelbon then confronted West, who grabbed his jersey. Papelbon ended up getting suspended 7 games for the gesture, and West was suspended 1 game for initiating contact with the player. In 2017, Joe West told the USA Today in an interview that Adrian Beltre was the biggest complainer in the league. He went on to say how every pitch he called a strike, Beltre would say, "Whoa, whoa, whoa." And he said that in a recent game he had called a strike that was right down the middle, and Beltre said it was outside. West was suspended 3 games for the comments, which the union strongly disagreed with, saying that West was just having a humorous exchange with a player. Adrian Beltre even defended West, saying that he thought the suspension was unnecessary and he thought that the comments were made in jest. In a 2013 game between the Angels and the Astros, the umpires allowed an illegal pitching change. It happened in the 7th inning when Astros manager Bo Porter put left-handed pitcher Wesley Wright into the game. The Angels then put in a right-handed pinch hitter, Luis Jimenez. Once Porter saw this, he then decided to take out the left-hander Wright and put in right-handed pitcher Hector Ambriz, and that was before Wright had even thrown a single pitch in the game. According to MLB rules at the time, a pitcher put into the game must face at least 1 hitter unless of an injury or illness. Angels manager Mike Scioscia argued, and the entire umpiring crew got together and discussed it. Still, they ultimately ended up allowing the pitching change, which Scioscia could not believe. Afterwards, umpire Fieldon Culbreth was suspended 2 games for the mistake. Culbreth was the crew chief of that umpiring crew, so he was the only one to get suspended. He was also fined an undisclosed amount, and the rest of the umpiring crew was also fined. Astros manager Bo Porter called Culbreth afterwards and apologized as well. In 2003, umpire Bruce Fromming was suspended for using an anti-Semitic slur. Fromming was scheduled to work the opening series of the season between the Athletics and the Mariners, which was being played in Tokyo, Japan. Fromming apparently got into some trouble for booking his own transportation to Japan instead of letting the MLB handle it like he was instructed to. After leaving a phone message with the commissioner's office, he made a comment about an umpire administrator in a conversation at home. However, he had not ended the voicemail yet, and the comments were picked up. Afterwards, Fromming received a 10-day suspension without pay, and he also made a public apology. Less than a week later in 2003, another very similar event took place. Umpire John Hirschbeck was in a heated phone conversation with Rob Manfred. At the time, Manfred was the executive vice president of labor relations at the commissioner's office. Hirschbeck was upset that an acquaintance who was a baseball employee had been laid off. In the argument with Manfred, Hirschbeck allegedly made personal threats against him. He was suspended 10 games for the incident. Jim Joyce famously blew the call at the end of the Armando Galarraga perfect game, which caused it to not be a perfect game. After this, Joyce apologized to Galarraga, and things got emotional, but overall it had a nice ending. Joyce and Galarraga later co-wrote a book together, and because of this, Joyce was banned from ever working a game with the team Galarraga played for. This was because it became a conflict of interest for them. In 2024, umpire Pat Holberg was fired for violating the league's gambling rules. Holberg did not gamble on baseball or try to influence outcomes of games. However, he still violated the rules. It was found that he shared a betting account with a friend who did bet on baseball games. It was also found that Holberg deleted evidence pertaining to the league's investigation. He was fired for failing to uphold the integrity of the game. Holberg said that he took full responsibility for the errors in judgment. It's a shame because Holberg was known as the best ball strike umpire in MLB. However, he can apply for reinstatement at the start of the 2026 season. The last instance we will talk about is Angel Hernandez. Hernandez was an MLB umpire from 1991 to 2024. Towards the end of his career, he was known as one of the worst umpires. There were many instances where fans were calling for him to be suspended for blown calls. He was also widely criticized by players and coaches for his umpiring. He was never suspended and was not fired, but his retirement came at a very strange time, because it was in May, just over a month into the season. This came after he reached a financial settlement with MLB. Obviously, the speculation is that he was so bad that the MLB paid him a bunch of money to retire. That's all for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.